Hello, everybody. Welcome to Amazing You. I am your host. My name is Rani Thanacoody, and I am a certified clinical hypnotherapist using rapid transformational therapy method. I am a Mars Venus life and relationship coach, astrologer, tarot reader, life force compassion practitioner, and past life regression practitioner. And today, I have the immense pleasure to introduce you to a very special guest, and his name is Len Tran. Len is the founder of Kinetic Mind, a coaching and training company that helps individuals increase their productivity and get results. Len is also the author, and his last book is called Split Up by the Sea, a Vietnamese refugee's memoir of survival and hope. Welcome, Len, to Amazing You.
Thank you very much for having me, Ronnie. And it's going to be a pleasure talking to you and also getting to know your audience.
Thank you so much, Len, for taking the time to share part of your story and what you do to the audience. And it is my first time to have a guest who has been a refugee, a Vietnamese refugee. So I am really, really excited to hear your experience and that journey that you've been to the United States. So thank you so much. I've always read about boat people coming to the US on the boat. So wow, it is such an honor to have you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
And my first question to you, Len, would you please tell us about your story, how you came to the United States and to be doing what you are doing now?
Yeah, certainly. And it all started in 1982 when I was 7 years old.
Okay.
And I remember vividly playing at the front yard when my mom was still cooking at the open kitchen. We were living in a small home with my parents, 6 kids, and both my grandparents. My dad grabbed me by the arm and he said, Len, you want to go to the city to visit your uncle? And I was like, yeah, Dad. You know, at that point, Vietnam was already overtaken by the communists after the Vietnam War in 1975.
Right.
And so, you know, we were living in the countryside. We were poor. And I was like, hey, Dad, you know, wherever that you want to take me, I'll go with you.
Okay.
Little did I know, that's when he brought me to his friend's house. We stayed there, and then we slept over. And at dawn, a strange man just picked me up from the bed, carried me on his shoulder, and then ran across the beach, and then just threw me into the boat.
Right. And what about your dad?
And when I screamed, I said, Dad, and that's when he covered my mouth and he said, shut up, you're gonna get us killed. But when he turned around, I grabbed onto the side of the boat and I was about to jump off. And that's when I heard, Len, just stay in there. And I looked up and that's when I saw my dad. And as I sat there.
Sorry, Len. So he stayed on the land.
Yeah. So basically, while I was on the boat, sitting and waiting for my dad to jump into the boat, he was helping the other men pushing the boat out to the sea. Mm-hmm. So when he got him and 12 other men got the boat off away from the shore is when he jumped in and captain revved up the engine. And when they got to the middle of the ocean, then the captain just turned off the engine and he said, you know, let the journey begin. Mm-hmm. So that's when I asked my dad, I was like, Dad, what is he talking about? What journey is he referring to? I thought we were going to go to see our uncle in the city. Yeah. And when the captain said, you know, we are going to find freedom, I was like, what is freedom? And I mean, from a perspective of a 7-year-old boy, you really don't know what freedom, is. All I know is, okay, dad is with me, and I want to be with the man who I love most. But what was going on in my head at that time was, my goodness, how about mom? How about, my
Yes.
siblings and my grandparents?
Yeah.
So I was confused for a very long time. But that journey with dad and 23 other people, on that boat was basically 21 days of, I would say, living in hell, because you don't know when you're going to die. You don't know if you're going to find freedom or not. And, we just thought that maybe the sea will be our deathbed. And lucky for us, after, 21 days of hardship, 21 days of lost at sea, we were finally saved by a Hong Kong Coast Guard.
Okay. So all that time, the 21 days, you were still in the around in the Pacific Ocean, in the middle of the Pacific.
Right. South China Sea, yeah.
Okay. And then that ship that took you, that Hong Kong ship, then took you to the United States.
Well,
How did that
if,
happen?
if that was the path, we'll be golden. But it didn't work that way for us.
Okay.
So after 14 days stranded in the middle of the ocean,
Yeah.
well, we got saved at that 14th day. Instead of bringing us on land, they brought us on a barge. So they placed us on a barge, and that's when we saw other Vietnamese refugees like us. Because when they placed on a barge, it was like hundreds of, I would say roughly almost 1,000 people on that large barge. But we were stationed there for another 7 days before they brought us on land. And when we got on land, they sprayed us down with, all kind of chemicals and stuff like that, and brought us to a refugee camp in Hong Kong. And so we stayed in the refugee camp for 3 months. We got to go through all these paperwork, all this interview. They want to make sure that, we are seeking, asylum in the United States, that we are running away from our country because of, political reasons and all that stuff. And after that was approved, we were sent to the Philippines for another 5 months, also living in a refugee camp. And after passing through another stages of interviewing and making sure that, we are legit, that's when they agreed to say, okay, you are going to the United States. But even coming to the United States is not one of those easy entry where they say, okay, you come in as an immigrant. You have to have an organization that is willing to sponsor you. And lucky for us, HIAS, which is HIAS, it's a Jewish organization that sponsor immigrants, Vietnamese immigrants like us back in the 80s. And we were fortunate to have them to bring us over to New York City. Now, I got many questions when people ask us, like, hey, how come you didn't choose any other states? Why New York City? It just so happened that it's New York City. But I have learned that Vietnamese boat people like myself have scattered all over the United States.
Wow, what a journey. It was more than 21 days because you got on the land in Hong Kong and then you were sent again on another ship to Vietnam, to the Philippines, and then stayed there for a long time, 5 months, and then on another ship to the United States. Wow.
Well, luckily from Philippines to the United States, that's where we took the airplane. And
Okay.
that was the first time that I got to experience an airplane. I was like, wow, but we were in the middle of the water, and now we're finally up in the sky. And I wrote how I felt in my book, in my memoir, on how I felt the first time that I got on the airplane.
Yes, I think you should write. It's great that you put it in writing in a book because not many children would think of that, and it's something that the next generation and even the generation after and after you, they will be able to read and to see what you've been through, which is an amazing experience. A lot of trauma for a little boy of 7 years old.
Yeah.
To go through all that. that was really, really brave. And for your dad, it's a very hard decision for your dad to leave the family. And how come he decided to pick you among all the members of your family?
Yeah, growing up, I've always, kind of wondered, I'm like, "Ooh, Dad had to make a really tough decision, because he has 6 kids. Why is that? He brought me along instead of the others." And I am the oldest son, not the oldest child. I have an older sister.
Right.
Um, See, back in the 80s, when you have to leave the country by boat like that, and that was the only means to escape the country.
Right.
And so if you were to get caught, it's not going to prison. It's you're going to be dead anyway. They will kill you. So it's one of those things that Dad had to make a very tough decision, whether we both are going to find freedom together, or that we are going to find death together, right? So it's one of those that I feel it's very difficult for him, because do you really want your whole entire family to die, right? If we do get caught. And so as I was growing up and seeing his ethics, his working ethics, his philosophies, the way that he lived, I can finally understand why he made that decision back in the 1980s.
That is wonderful that you are sharing that with the audience, because we watch it on TV, but we don't realize the hardship that the people on these boats they go through when they want to move to some other developed countries. So I think
Yeah.
we are very lucky, the audience and I, to have you, Len. It's wow, what an inspiring journey of bravery and strength. You need to be strong and have faith in God, in yourself, to go through that.
Yeah, and I'm glad that you mentioned God,
Yeah.
our supernatural beliefs, because
Mm.
on the fifth day of our journey was when we ran out of food, fuel, and water.
Oh.
And I remember, as I was sitting there, I was feeling the wind was picking up, and I felt a bit of raindrops. And then, when someone from the boat just screamed and said, "Hey, brace yourself, a storm is coming." And when I looked straight ahead, there was, ominous cloud was approaching us. And that's when I turned over and I looked at Dad's face, and I could see the fear in his eyes. Uh, and then I was like, you know what? This is it. I guess the entire boat is going to die here. So within a few seconds, he put his hands together and he started to pray. And I was like, okay, I'll do the same thing. I prayed, the entire boat started to pray. And when the cloud was just right on top of the boat, and the wind was increasing, you can feel the waves rocking on the side of the boat, and splashes of salt water was all over my face. And then suddenly I felt more raindrops, and when I opened my eyes, it was a downpour. But that's exactly what we needed, because we ran out of water. We
Okay.
needed that water to survive, and I remember drinking that precious water. And there were people on the boat who were trying to get the pots and pans to contain as much water as we can. And
Yeah.
within 5 minutes, when the ominous clouds just passed right by, and when we saw rays of sunlight,
Wow.
that's when we felt, God is listening to us. God has gave us hope. He's giving us another chance to survive, to pursue our goal, and that was to find freedom.
Yeah.
So I do believe in faith and hope.
Yes. Yeah. 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 And I think a lot of people listening to this podcast today or watching the YouTube, they would be very inspired by your story of faith and hope, because some of them I know are in very challenging, going through very tough times. So here is a story of hope, someone who's been through that, to show you
Yeah.
that you can get out of whatever deep hole that you are in. Yeah. Thank you, Len. And what would you say, Len, has been the greatest challenge in your life? And how did you overcome that, Len?
So when Dad and I set out to find freedom,
Okay.
you would think that, when you find freedom, our lives going to change.
Mm.
But when they brought us to the United States, we were like, oh, wow, is this the freedom that we were looking for? And that was because in 1982, we were brought to New York City, and
Okay.
New York City in the 80s is not like New York City nowadays, right?
Okay.
When we got there, we were stationed in the Big Apple, the Manhattan, which is the city of the main city of New York City. But
Yeah.
when we took the subway to the South Bronx, we're like, what? This is freedom?
Mm.
I mean, the South Bronx in the 1980s, you talk about, high crime, thefts, drugs. It
Okay.
has it. It has it all, right?
Mm.
And the apartment that they brought us in was already occupied by two Vietnamese boat people, like Dad and I.
Okay.
And so it was a one-bedroom apartment. One of the men were like, was like, okay, you know what? Since you're taking care of your 7-year-old son, why don't you guys have the bedroom?
Okay.
And so we took over the bedroom.
Mm.
Now the apartment was basically bare bone, nothing in there, with just only blankets and pillows.
Mm.
And then one of the men said, "Oh, while we were eating dinner, he said, 'Oh, are you guys ready for treasure hunting?'" And so I turned to Dad and I was like, "Yeah, treasure hunting. Yeah, let's do it, Dad. Let's go see what we can find." Well, we got out of the apartment building. The man said, "Yeah, make a right turn." And
Mm-hmm.
I was like, "Right turn? That's the dumpster." And
Mm.
he said, "Yeah, yeah. That's where we're gonna find our treasures."
Mm.
So we got to the dumpsters, and he said, "Yeah, you gotta go see what you can find." And
Wow.
I can remember vividly that day. I ran there and I saw a mattress. Right, so I picked up all the stuff that was on top of the mattress,
Mm-hmm.
and we carried that mattress home. And then the man said, "You know what? Since you have a son, why don't you guys keep this mattress?" And it
Mm.
was the first mattress that was I ever slept on. Living in Vietnam, we don't have a mattress. We sleep
Okay.
on either concrete or hardwood.
Wow.
It was the first mattress that I got to sleep on.
Wow.
And even though it smells like garbage, like urine, I
Mm.
didn't mind because it was really soft, and it gave me um, a sense that, you know,
Mm.
my life is going to change.
Yes.
Uh,
Yes.
and because of that kind of mindset in my head for a very long time,
Mm.
that I'm living, I'm living life that, do I have to constantly go to dumpsters to find
Mm.
stuff? Or I remember days that I have to sell cans just to make, 5 cents per can. On
Okay.
days that I can make only $1, or there are good days that I can make, $5.
Mm.
But these are the things that in back of my mind, that, oh my goodness, how hard do I have to live, of such being a young age,
Yeah.
that I would never be a nobody, that, it's going to be very difficult for me to catch up. It's difficult for me to be a scholar.
Mm.
But you know what? All those little things, all of those hardship that was given to me,
Yes.
was actually an experience that I would never exchange for,
Yes.
because that makes me who I am today. Because it teaches me, it had taught me discipline, perseverance, and never to give up.
Yeah. And after that, you went to university. You are trained as an engineer. Is that correct, Lan? Like.
That's right, and it's all because of Dad. Because when I came here, again, I was 8 years old. Dad was 32. So I mean, most people who I know at the age of 32, they just want to make money, right? But
Yes.
Dad's mentality was different. He has the mindset that, I come to this country, and the very first thing I need is to get an education.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
that's exactly what he did. He went to get his GED.
Okay.
He did not mind to sit with 19-year-old kids. He's like, okay, you know what? I'm here to get an education. Doesn't matter who's next to me, whatever, as long as I get my degree. and he worked hard. He worked hard as a dishwasher while going to get his GED at the same time. And so he got his GED. Then he continued to.
Sorry, Len. What is the
Yeah.
GED?
So GED is basically an equivalent of a high school degree. So in order to go to college, you need to have a high school diploma.
Okay.
Right. So the GED is like an entrance diploma for him to get into college. Right. Okay. So that's when he finished his GED. He went to college and he got his associate degree, which is a 2 years degree. And then Dad said, you know what, I want to be an engineer. So he continued and got his 4-year engineering degree. And growing up, when you see your dad work that hard, it makes me do the same. I just did not have, I mean, when I was a teenager, I was like, oh, you know what? As all teenagers, you wanna hang out, you wanna have fun with with your friends, right? Yes. But when you grow up to have a father figure like that, to see how much he endured as an adult while going to work and study hard, I just don't have an excuse to do something different, but just to study or to fulfill, our dream, which was to find freedom so that we can find a better life.
Yeah. What an amazing story. Thank you, Len. Wow, I can keep listening to you for hours. Your journey is so fascinating, from where you were on that boat up to all that, where you followed your dad. He's been learning and growing, and you have been doing the same, and where you are today. Oh my God, you are such an inspiration, Len. Yeah.
Thank you.
And who has been for you, Len, the most influential person in your life, and why?
Yeah, I mean, like as much as I mentioned about dad is always going to be that biggest role, right? He's always going to be that person who not just only for me as a guiding light, but he's also fuel for the fire for me. Yeah. Every time when I look at dad, it's about having that discipline. It's about having that mindset, changing his perception of what's bad and turning it into good. Yes. But most importantly is him teaching me instead of complaining, you should always find contentment. Right? I mean, we could have complained and said, why didn't they just give us a bed? But instead, we change from complaining into being grateful. We're grateful that we were brought to America, that it's okay to sleeping on a sticky mattress, but at least it's something different. It's something better than what we had. So I've always believed in being grateful versus complaining. I mean, for me, let's say if an opportunity were given to a colleague or to a friend, it's not about saying, okay, why that person? Why not me? Maybe God is having something else for me. Maybe God has a different purpose for me to on this world. Yeah. So yeah, my principle is basically evolve around what I have learned growing up with my dad.
Wow, that's so beautiful. And I like that you mentioned about gratitude, because gratitude is the altitude for abundance, and that's what you've been doing. Like, even on that mattress, that sticky mattress, you were grateful for that moment, for that mattress. Yeah. And gratitude brings so much. As we are grateful for every moment, everything of our life, it changes our life as we keep doing it. And I think you are a great example of that. I had been telling my clients how important it is to be grateful and to keep doing it consistently, and how gratitude can change the way you think, the way you look at things, and brings towards you the things that you want. And you are the example that everybody can see from where you started, and look at you now. Wow. It's I can't believe it. I am so blown away by your story and by your journey and by what you've become now, Len. Wow. Yeah.
Let me share this story with about gratitude as well.
Mm.
So living in the South Bronx is right across the street from our apartment is a Catholic church, right? And like I said, my religion is Buddhism,
Yes.
but I go to that church very often.
Okay.
I would say at least more than 3 days a week.
Okay.
And particularly, the church was giving out, after school lunches, right, or after school meal. And while Dad was working, I was at home and I don't have any food. And I say, oh, you know what? The church is giving out free food. Why
Okay.
not? Let me just go to the church.
Right.
And so one day I told Dad, I said, Dad, it was our first Christmas. So I said, Dad, the church said to come around 7 p.m. because they are going to give out gifts. So I pulled Dad along and I introduced him to the church. And I was waiting in line, and finally I got my box of gift, right? And I couldn't wait to get home to open up that
Oh,
gift. And when I opened that up,
yes. What was inside?
a doll, doll, doll.
Okay.
And I was like, Dad, why a doll? Why can't they give me a car or something?
Yes.
Not a doll. And I was about to throw it away. I was
Yeah.
about to throw it away because I mean I don't play with with dolls.
Yes.
But Dad was like, no, you're not supposed to throw it away. It was someone gave you that,
Yeah.
and you should at least appreciate what
Mm.
has given to you.
Yeah.
So dad took the doll and he put right next to the lamp,
Okay.
and that doll was basically next to that lamp for a very very long time.
Mm.
And that was the first time that I get to learn about gratitude at a very young age, because
Mm.
um, you know especially kids who I know nowadays,
Yes.
when you give them gifts and they're like, oh, I don't need that
Yes.
stuff, just
Yeah.
throw away. You got to teach them appreciation. You got to
Yes.
teach them that, when someone gives you something, it's from their heart, right? And at least they spend the time and the effort to get you something. Whether you
Yes.
like it or not, it's not about the object. It's about what they had done for you, and that's what I value and cherish. It's people's time, it's people's thought. It's not just the object that they give me. It's
Yeah.
what's behind the object.
That's so true. That's so true. Thank you. Thank you, Len. And what three qualities that you admire? Your dad is such an inspiration, such a hero. I know there are a lot of qualities. What three qualities do you admire most in your dad?
Yeah, like I mentioned earlier, I mean, perseverance is first and foremost, because he persevere through sickness, through hardship. That and education is what he has to get, he has to achieve. And every time when I look at his perseverance, I just haven't seen anyone with his level of perseverance. The other thing is change in perception. He knows how to rewire his thoughts every time when an obstacle comes up. Rather than saying, okay, you know what, that's too big for me. He say, hey, it might be big, but I do have another plan to go around it, right?
Mm.
And third and foremost, and I remember Dad told me it's not about how much you do, it's about how hard you are doing it.
Mm.
And that level, I call it perspiration. That level of I'm going to work hard. I'm going to work like I'm at a gym. I'm going
Yes.
to work until I sweat, right? It's not about me just running on the treadmill. It's about me running on the treadmill until I'm sweat and soaked. That's when I get off, I'm going to feel great. So that's the three keys that Dad taught me, so that when I face an obstacle myself, and which I do face obstacles all the time,
Yes.
it's when I revisit those kind of qualities that he has to give me the fuel for me to fight on.
Yeah. Wow. Thank you. Thank you so much. And what quote has helped you learn to cope in challenging times?
I truly believe in this, and I tell my kids. My daughter is 20 years old now, and she's in college now. And I said, don't wait for the perfect moment, right? You got to make every moment perfect. My daughter would say, "Daddy, but I need to practice more so I can become better." And I tell her, you know what? You practice enough. You don't know how good you are until you're being thrown in there, right? Because I was the same way myself.
Okay.
When I wanted to do something, I've always said, oh, you know what? Let me prepare myself. That when I'm good enough, then I'm gonna try for it. But the older I got, I realized, I'm always preparing, and you're always preparing, but we are our worst critic, right? We always raise the bar each time when we reach that level.
Yes.
And so I said, you know what? When you put yourself in the moment, when you face the challenge, it's when you get to know yourself better. So don't ever say, I'm going to wait for that perfect moment. You got to create that perfect moment. Every moment can be perfect.
Yes, I think that's beautiful. Yes, thank you. I think that's really something that we can all take away and way that we don't need to be perfect. We are not perfect.
Yeah, exactly.
And nobody on this earth is perfect. We come here
Exactly.
and even the relationship that we are in, friends, family, partners, the relationship is not perfect either. It's just accepting each other for who they are.
And that's kind of funny. And until today, my wife at times she tells it to my friends. She's trying to embarrass me and stuff. But you know what? I felt the moment when I proposed to my wife. We were actually driving.
Okay.
We were actually driving, and it was a long drive, and I got so tired. And I turned to my wife. I was like, "Oh, honey, would you marry me?" And she goes, "Of all places, you're gonna propose to me in a car while driving?" And I was like, honey, because I'm feeling it right now, and I want to be with the person who I love most, and I'm feeling that you are the one, hon. And so it has been 21 years.
Oh my God, that's
So
wonderful.
thank you. So I created that moment. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Yeah. So it's kind of funny when my younger brothers asked me, he was like, okay, well, when is the perfect time that I'm going to propose? I was like, well, if you're going to hear my story, you create that perfect moment.
Yes, I think I like that. We get to create that perfect moment.
Yeah.
Yes, we get to create it. Yes, thank you. And what would you say, Len, today to all those people who are listening and watching who are going through some really tough times? What would you like to tell them, Len?
In life, I think we all face that time in our life, and that is being stuck, right? It's impossible to be happy all the time. That's not life. Life is about experiencing tough times, because that's how we're going to find out who we are. So when you find tough times, don't beat yourself up. Don't point fingers and say, why is this person have it easier than I do? Just like how I mentioned earlier, God created you for a reason. God created you for a reason, and God put these kind of obstacles in front of you for a reason, because He has a plan for you. So don't feel as though, why others are having it easy versus yourself, because the experience that you are having now, it's what's going to make you so powerful, so that you can share that experience with other people, so that they can understand what you went through, so that they can feel you, so that they can be inspired to do what they needed to do. But most importantly is this: you have to believe in yourself, because if you don't believe in yourself, nobody will believe in you. You have to start believing yourself first. And for me, it took me a long time, because I had an incident when I was in third grade, that I did not know any English. And so when the entire class laughed at me, even including my own English teacher laughed at me, I didn't believe in myself. And I didn't believe in myself for years, up until I would say even after college. So the reason why I study engineering was because, you know what, I want to get away from the public. I don't want to speak. I don't want to write.
Right.
But
And here you
until
are today speaking and
That's right.
writing.
And until that day when I said, you know what, I believe in myself that I can be a speaker, I can be a writer.
Yeah,
Now I'm writing, I wrote my first book and I'm about to publish my second book. So you always have to believe in yourself and cherish those tough times. It's there for a reason.
that's so true. That's so true. And what books or book has impacted you the most, Len, and why?
A couple of years ago, I was very fortunate. I believe I was very fortunate. And I believe in, we spoke about the law of attraction earlier.
Yes.
And I love that philosophy.
Yeah.
And so I was attracted to this book called The Last Lecture
Okay.
by Professor Randy Posh, I believe. I hope I pronounced his last name correctly. But in that book, he only had a few more months to live. He has, terminal cancer,
Right.
and he talked about, look, we only have one life to live.
Yes.
So stop running away doing the things that you love, because at the end of the day, when you get to an old age,
Yes.
people regret of the things that they did not do versus the thing that they did.
Yeah.
So after reading that book, I was like, wow, this is what I needed to read. This is what I needed to hear. So I was fortunate to read his book and also listen to his lecture on YouTube.
Okay. Wow, what a book. What a very inspiring book. Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah, thank you, Len. I will go and get that book. I've never read it, so it's a book
yeah,
I need to put in my reading list and get hold of that book. Thank you.
yeah.
And tell us briefly about all the great things that you do, about your second book, if you want to share with us, and how can people reach out to you, Len?
Yeah, certainly. Thank you very much. When I first write my first book, the intention was to write a motivational book. But it was just so funny that uh, when I got to my third chapter, I keep putting in there the examples on how Dad and I survived during our journey coming to America. Within those 21 days at sea. And
Yes.
so I said, you know what? Let me change writing from a motivational book to a memoir. So that's the reason why the first book was a memoir.
Right.
And so last year, I decided when I finished the Splitter by the Sea, which is the first book, I said, you know what? It's time to revisit my primary purpose was to write that motivational book. So the motivational book, the title is Break the Bricks, which and subtitle is Breakthrough to Find the Real You. So that's basically done. It's with my editor right now, and I'm hoping to have it published by the end of this summer. And it's basically a book that has my stories as well as some examples on how I overcome certain obstacles, on how I break the bricks, because essentially that's what we do to ourselves, right? We always build these walls, and these are just walls of illusions, and it's time to knock it down in order for you to find the real you.
Yeah.
And
Wow.
yeah, people can reach me on my website,
Yes,
Len V
please give.
Tran. Yeah, thank you, lenvtran.com. And yeah, I have my YouTube channel as well. I didn't get to expound much on my martial art background, but I also have 35 years of martial arts, and I credit to that as well as to my discipline. And so I speak on martial art and also the philosophy of it in order for me to propel forward. And so I don't want to call myself, a motivational speaker, but more of a transformational speaker. But I also have some of the martial art philosophies in there as well.
That's wonderful. And tell us a little bit about the coaching. You are the founder of the Kinetic company. So tell us about a bit more about what you do, and then
Yeah.
how can people again contact you regarding that as well?
Certainly, thank you. Yeah, so my day job right now, yeah, I'm still a chemical engineer at the United States Patent and Trademark Office, but also I'm the founder of Kinetic Mind And the reason why I came up with Kinetic Mind is because, our mind is always busy. We call that the monkey mind, the chattering mind in there. So how do you tame that mind in order for you to focus on successful actions versus the distractions that's going on? So when I found that the company, I want to help individuals. I want to help, emerging leaders. I want to help athletes. And being the athlete that I am, I know how it feels when you are in a match. Right? Sometimes before the opponent beats you, you already beat your own mind up already, right? So I want to teach individuals on how to tame that mind. I want to teach emerging leaders on how to say you are important to your followers. So stop thinking that you are not worthy. So people can reach me at my website again, lenvtran.com, and and I would be more than happy to coach us, as you are interested in taming that distractions and going on in your mind.
Wow. I would like to say congratulations for all the things that you are doing, for your
Thank you.
second book that is coming out. I am looking forward to seeing it on Facebook and you talking more about it. I would say also a big thank you, Len, for taking the time to share and talk to the audience about your journey and all the great things that you do. And I wish you a lot of success going ahead in everything that you do. And if you would wait after the podcast when I stop the recording, so if you can stay on the line. And I would say big thank you to the audience for watching, listening, subscribing, and sharing. And thank you, everyone. And thank you so much, Len.
Thank you very much. Thank you for such a wonderful conversation. And once again, thank you to your audience for spending at least the last 30 minutes with us.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Len. Bye, everyone.